Life can feel overwhelming when you're constantly pulled in every direction and caught up in what others expect from you. Many people spend years trying to please everyone around them while their own goals, dreams, and potential quietly take a back seat. This audiobook is about taking control of your life by putting your focus where it truly matters, on yourself and the dreams that are important to you. Here, you will discover practical ways to prioritize your growth every day. You will learn how to define your personal goals clearly and take ownership of them so that every action you take moves you closer to the life you want. You will see how to cut out distractions that steal your time and energy, and how to build habits that strengthen both your discipline and your confidence. You will understand how to protect your time, honor your commitments, and trust yourself through consistent action. This audiobook will guide you to replace the need for external approval with deep internal respect and to keep moving forward even when setbacks occur. You'll learn how to design routines that actually align with your long-term goals and commit to lifelong self-improvement, no matter what others think. By the end of this journey, you will feel more confident, focused, and capable of shaping your life in a way that truly reflects your priorities. If you are ready to stop letting the noise of the world control you and start living intentionally for your own dreams, this audiobook will show you exactly how to make it happen. Chapter 1. Commit fully to prioritizing your growth daily. Committing fully to prioritizing your growth each day is not a dramatic decision made once in a moment of inspiration. It is a quiet choice repeated daily when no one is watching and when motivation feels absent. Most people say they want to improve their lives, yet continue to place their own growth at the bottom of their daily priorities. They wake up reacting to messages, opinions, obligations, and noise from the world before checking in with their own direction. This chapter is about ending that pattern. It is about making yourself, your values, and your long-term development the central responsibility of your life. Not out of selfishness, but out of clarity and self-respect. Personal growth begins with an honest realization that no one is coming to rescue your potential. Circumstances may influence you, but they do not decide who you become. Every day offers small moments where you either move closer to the person you want to be or drift further away through neglect. Growth does not demand perfection. It demands attention. When attention is absent, decline becomes automatic. When attention is intentional, progress becomes unavoidable. Many people wait for a perfect time to focus on themselves. They tell themselves they will work on their discipline once life slows down, or once they feel more confident, or once others approve. That time does not arrive. Life continues to demand more as long as you continue to give it priority over your own development. Prioritizing growth means deciding that even on busy days, even on difficult days, even on days filled with doubt, you will still invest something into yourself. Not everything, just something meaningful. Growth is not about doing more. It is about choosing better. It is about identifying what actually moves your life forward and giving that attention before distractions take over. Most people confuse activity with progress. They stay busy yet remain unchanged. True growth feels quieter. It may look simple from the outside. Reading a few pages, writing a plan, reflecting on behavior, practicing a skill, improving health, strengthening focus. These actions appear small, yet they compound in powerful ways when done daily. A stoic approach to growth begins with understanding control. You cannot control how others behave, how fast results arrive, or how the world responds to your efforts. You can control your actions, your effort, your standards, and your daily choices. When growth becomes a daily priority, you stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop waiting for the right mood. You act based on values rather than feelings. The first step is deciding what growth actually means for you. Growth is not copying someone else's life or chasing trends. Growth is becoming more capable, more disciplined, more aware, and more aligned with your values. It means strengthening the areas where you feel weak and refining the areas where you already perform well. It means reducing behaviors that waste your energy and increasing behaviors that build strength, clarity, and confidence. Many people avoid prioritizing growth because it requires honesty. Growth demands that you look at your habits and admit where you are falling short. It requires accepting responsibility without blaming your past, your environment, or other people. This acceptance is not punishment, it is freedom. The moment you accept responsibility, you gain the power to change. Daily growth starts with structure, not rigid structure, but intentional design. When your day has no direction, distractions decide for you. Growth requires protected time, even if it is brief. 10 focused minutes invested daily are more powerful than hours of unfocused effort once a week. Consistency matters more than intensity. The nervous system, the mind, and the character adapt through repetition. Start by choosing one growth action that matters. Something realistic, something specific, something measurable. Reading one chapter, writing one page, exercising for 10 minutes, reflecting on one decision. The action should feel small enough that excuses seem unreasonable. The goal is not to overwhelm yourself, but to build trust through completion. Each completed action strengthens your identity as someone who follows through. Growth also requires subtraction. You cannot add meaningful habits without removing draining ones. Time is limited, energy is limited, attention is limited. When growth becomes a priority, you begin to question where your time leaks. Excessive scrolling, meaningless conversations, constant entertainment, avoidance behaviors. These habits do not relax you, they numb you. Numbness blocks growth. Reducing distraction does not require extreme discipline at first. It requires awareness. Notice what pulls you away from your intentions. Notice how often you reach for comfort instead of progress. Awareness alone creates distance. Distance creates choice. Choice creates change. A powerful practice is beginning each day by asking one simple question. What would make today a day of growth? Not a perfect day, not an impressive day, a growth day. The answer is rarely complex. It might be maintaining composure during a challenge, completing a planned task, refusing a distraction, or practicing patience. Growth often appears in moments of restraint rather than action. Daily growth also includes mental discipline. The thoughts you allow shape your direction. Many people sabotage themselves with unconscious narratives. I am not ready yet. Others have it easier. I missed my chance. These thoughts feel true, but they are not facts. They are habits, and habits can be replaced. Replacing negative mental patterns begins with interruption. When a limiting thought appears, pause. Acknowledge it without judgment. Then choose a more constructive response. This is not pretending everything is fine. It is choosing a response that leads to action instead of paralysis. The Stoic approach does not deny difficulty. It accepts difficulty without surrendering effort. Growth also involves emotional regulation. Strong emotions are not enemies. They are signals. But when emotions control decisions, progress suffers. Prioritizing growth means responding instead of reacting. It means learning to pause before speaking, before quitting, before indulging. This pause is where strength develops. One practical way to build this pause is through daily reflection. Reflection does not require long writing sessions. It requires honesty. At the end of the day, consider 3 things. What did you do well? Where did you act against your values? What can be adjusted tomorrow? This simple review creates alignment between intention and behavior. Physical discipline supports mental growth. The body influences the mind more than people realize. Sleep, nutrition, movement, posture, breathing. Neglecting these areas weakens willpower and clarity. Prioritizing growth means respecting the body as a tool, not an afterthought. Small improvements compound. Drinking water, walking daily, improving sleep routines, stretching regularly. These actions stabilize energy and focus. Growth also requires courage to be misunderstood. When you focus on yourself, others may feel uncomfortable. They may question your change or interpret it as distance. This is unavoidable. Growth often disrupts familiar patterns. Choosing growth does not require explaining yourself. It requires staying consistent. Another barrier to daily growth is comparison. Watching others progress faster can create frustration, but comparison steals focus from your own process. Growth is personal. Your pace, your challenges, your starting point. Measuring yourself against others creates either pride or discouragement, neither of which supports discipline. Measure yourself against your past behavior instead. Celebrate progress quietly. Pride does not need an audience. When growth becomes internal, it becomes stable. External validation fluctuates. Internal standards endure. The goal is not to impress but to improve. Growth also demands patience. Results often lag behind effort. Many people quit during this delay. They mistake slow progress for failure. But growth is cumulative. Each disciplined day deposits value into a future version of yourself. Trust the process even when evidence feels invisible. A daily growth mindset treats mistakes as information rather than identity. Missing a habit does not define you. It provides feedback. Adjust, resume, continue. Harsh self-judgment drains energy. Calm correction sustains momentum. Prioritizing growth means designing your environment to support better choices. Remove triggers that lead to distraction. Prepare tools in advance. Place reminders where you will see them. Environment shapes behavior more powerfully than motivation. Make growth easier than avoidance. Another essential aspect of growth is learning. Not passive consumption, but active understanding. Read with intention. Apply one idea instead of collecting many. Knowledge without action becomes clutter. Wisdom emerges when information influences behavior. Growth also includes setting standards. Standards clarify expectations for yourself. They define what behavior is acceptable. When standards are clear, decisions become simpler. You do not debate whether to skip discipline. You already decided who you are. A stoic standard focuses on effort rather than outcome. You judge success by whether you acted with integrity, discipline, and focus. Outcomes fluctuate. Character remains. Growth requires solitude, not isolation, but intentional quiet. Silence allows clarity. Without quiet, the mind remains reactive. Even a few minutes daily without stimulation strengthens awareness. In silence, you notice your thoughts, urges, and patterns. Awareness precedes control. Daily growth also involves confronting avoidance. What you delay often holds the greatest potential. Avoidance feels safe, but it limits expansion. Each avoided task becomes heavier over time. Facing it lightly and consistently reduces its weight. Growth demands courage to begin before confidence appears. Confidence is built through action, not waiting. Each completed action proves capability. Each proof strengthens belief. One overlooked aspect of growth is forgiveness. Holding resentment consumes energy. Growth requires releasing grudges not because others deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness is not approval. It is detachment from emotional weight. Another powerful practice is focusing on contribution. Growth is not self-obsession. It is self-development for meaningful impact. Becoming stronger, calmer, clearer allows you to serve better. Contribution reinforces purpose. Purpose fuels discipline. Daily growth thrives on clarity of values. Values guide decisions when emotions fluctuate. Identify what matters. Integrity, growth, health, learning, contribution, resilience. Use values as filters. When choices arise, ask which option aligns with values. Growth also involves saying no to distractions, commitments, expectations that conflict with priorities. No preserves energy. Energy fuels progress. As days accumulate, growth becomes identity. You no longer ask whether you should work on yourself. It becomes natural. The effort required decreases as habits solidify. However, complacency remains a risk. Growth is a practice, not a destination. When effort stops, regression begins. This is not discouraging. It is grounding. It reminds you to remain engaged. Daily growth also includes gratitude. Gratitude grounds effort. It prevents bitterness. Recognizing what you have does not reduce ambition. It stabilizes it. Gratitude fuels patience. Prioritizing growth does not mean neglecting rest. Rest supports sustainability. Rest is not avoidance, it is recovery with intention. Schedule rest. Protect it. Use it to return stronger. One practical method to maintain growth focus is tracking. Simple tracking builds awareness. Mark days when you complete your growth action. Patterns reveal consistency. Consistency builds confidence. Growth also requires adjusting expectations. Progress is rarely linear. Some days feel effortless, others heavy. Do not evaluate your path based on emotions. Evaluate based on commitment. When doubt appears, return to basics. One action, one decision, one improvement. Simplicity restores momentum. The greatest reward of prioritizing growth is self-trust. When you keep promises to yourself, you build internal stability. This stability reduces anxiety. It increases courage. It strengthens presence. Self-trust is earned through action, not affirmation. Each day you show up, you reinforce belief. Each day you avoid effort, you weaken it. Choose deliberately. Growth also changes how you view time. Time becomes an ally rather than an enemy. Each day becomes an opportunity rather than an obligation. Eventually, growth extends beyond habits into perspective. Challenges become training. Discomfort becomes instruction. Obstacles become direction. This shift does not eliminate difficulty. It gives it meaning. Prioritizing growth daily is an act of respect toward your future self. It is choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term comfort. It is choosing agency over drift. This commitment does not require dramatic declarations. It requires quiet consistency. Begin where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can today. When growth becomes your priority, the noise of comparison fades. Opinions lose power. Direction strengthens. Peace increases. At the end of each day, you may not see dramatic change, but you will feel alignment. Alignment compounds. Over time, you become someone you respect. Commitment to growth is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming fully yourself, clear, focused, disciplined, and grounded. This commitment shapes character. Character shapes destiny. Choose to invest daily. Choose to act intentionally. Choose to grow regardless of conditions. This is not a demand. It is an invitation to live with purpose. The decision is renewed each morning. Make it quietly. Honor it daily, and allow time to reveal the transformation that consistency creates. Chapter 2: Define clear personal dreams and take ownership. Defining clear personal dreams begins with honesty rather than ambition. Many people move through life carrying borrowed goals without realizing it. They chase what sounds respectable, what earns approval, or what feels safe enough to explain to others. Over time, this creates a quiet dissatisfaction because effort is being invested in directions that do not truly belong to them. Clarity does not come from wanting more. It comes from asking what genuinely matters to you when no one is watching and no one is judging the answer. A personal dream is not fantasy. It is a direction rooted in values, abilities, curiosity, and meaning. It reflects how you want to live, contribute, and grow. Without this clarity, effort becomes scattered. You may stay busy and even achieve milestones, yet still feel disconnected from your own life. Defining your dream brings coherence. It aligns daily effort with long-term intention. The first step is learning to listen inward instead of outward. Noise surrounds you constantly. Opinions, expectations, trends, success stories, advice. If you never step away from this noise, your own voice becomes faint. Clarity requires quiet attention. This does not mean isolating yourself from the world. It means creating moments where you ask direct questions and wait for honest responses. What kind of work feels meaningful? What kind of life feels balanced? What problems do you care enough to engage with repeatedly? What activities give you energy instead of draining it? Many people avoid these questions because the answers feel demanding. Once you name a dream, responsibility follows. Ambiguity feels safer because it allows excuses. Clarity removes hiding places. This is why ownership is inseparable from dreaming. A dream without ownership becomes a wish. Ownership turns intention into commitment. Taking ownership means accepting that your dream belongs to you alone. No one else is required to approve it. No one else is obligated to support it. This can feel heavy at first, yet it is also liberating. When you own your dream, you stop waiting for permission. You stop blaming circumstances for inaction. You shift from hoping to deciding. Ownership begins with language. Pay attention to how you speak about your life. Phrases like "someday, maybe, if things change" reveal avoidance. Replace them with statements of direction. I am working toward this. I am learning this skill. I am building this path. The words you use reinforce identity. Identity shapes behavior. Clear dreams are specific enough to guide action, but flexible enough to evolve. They are not rigid plans carved in stone. They are directions that adapt as you learn more about yourself and the world. Precision matters. Wanting success is vague. Wanting to build a stable career in a field you respect while maintaining health and autonomy is clearer. The clearer the dream, the easier it becomes to choose aligned actions. Writing your dream down is not symbolic. It is practical. When thoughts remain internal, they shift easily. When written, they become reference points. Writing forces precision. It reveals contradictions. It exposes what you are avoiding. Revisit what you write periodically. Refine it. Growth sharpens vision. Another barrier to clarity is fear of being unrealistic. Many people shrink their dreams to avoid disappointment. They aim lower to feel safer. This creates long-term regret rather than peace. Realism should guide strategy, not ambition. You can pursue meaningful goals while remaining grounded. Courage and responsibility are not opposites. Ownership also means accepting the cost of your dream. Every direction requires sacrifice. Time, energy, comfort, familiarity. Pretending otherwise creates frustration. When you accept the cost in advance, you reduce resentment. You stop feeling cheated by effort. You understand why discipline is necessary. A powerful exercise is identifying what you are willing to struggle for. Every path includes difficulty. Choose difficulty consciously. If a dream is worth pursuing, its challenges feel purposeful rather than draining. This distinction matters. Once a dream is defined, action must follow. Ownership expresses itself through behavior. Small, consistent steps translate intention into reality. Waiting for confidence delays progress. Confidence grows through engagement. Act while learning, learn while acting. Another element of ownership is refusing to outsource responsibility. Advice can inform but cannot decide. Support can encourage but cannot replace effort. Circumstances influence but do not determine. When setbacks occur, take responsibility for adjustment rather than blame. This mindset builds resilience. It is also important to separate dreams from identity traps. You are not your outcomes. You are not your current limitations. A dream is a direction, not a verdict. Holding it lightly prevents rigidity. Commitment does not require obsession. Balance preserves clarity. Clear dreams require alignment with values. Without alignment, motivation fades quickly. Ask whether your dream supports integrity, health, learning, contribution, and growth. If it conflicts with core values, tension will arise. Adjust early rather than pushing through discomfort blindly. Another aspect of ownership is patience. Dreams unfold over time. Impatience leads to shortcuts that weaken foundations. Progress measured in years rather than days creates sustainable results. Patience is not passivity. It is steady action without panic. Comparison remains a constant threat. Watching others advance faster can create doubt. Remember that you see highlights, not effort. Their path does not invalidate yours. Focus on your lane. Depth matters more than speed. Ownership also includes accountability. Hold yourself to standards. Review actions honestly. Adjust plans without excuses. Accountability builds trust with yourself. Trust sustains effort. A helpful practice is weekly alignment. Review whether recent actions reflect your dream. If not, adjust. This prevents drift. Drift happens quietly. Alignment requires attention. Fear often appears once ownership deepens. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of success. Fear signals importance. Do not wait for fear to disappear. Act alongside it. Courage is movement with fear present. Another challenge is clarity overload. You may feel pressure to define everything perfectly. This is unnecessary. Start with direction. Precision increases through experience. Allow the dream to mature. Ownership also involves protecting your dream. Not everyone needs access to it. Share selectively. Too much exposure invites unnecessary influence. Protecting does not mean hiding. It means discretion. As you take ownership, your relationship with time changes. You become intentional. Time becomes structured around purpose rather than reaction. This creates calm. Ownership also strengthens boundaries. You say no more easily. You decline distractions without guilt. You prioritize actions aligned with direction. Boundaries preserve energy. Dreams grounded in service gain durability. When your dream includes contribution, it extends beyond ego. Service provides resilience during difficulty. Purpose expands endurance. Clear dreams also influence identity. You begin to see yourself as a builder-learner practitioner rather than a drifter. Identity shapes daily decisions. Decisions shape outcomes. Doubt will revisit periodically. Use doubt as a signal to clarify rather than quit. Return to why you chose this direction. Reconnect with values. Adjust strategy, not vision, prematurely. Another key aspect is flexibility. Ownership does not mean stubbornness. Information evolves. Circumstances change. Adaptation strengthens outcomes. Holding direction while adjusting methods is wisdom. Writing a personal mission statement can help. Keep it simple. A few sentences that describe how you want to live, work, and contribute. Review it during uncertainty. Ownership also means celebrating progress responsibly. Acknowledge growth without complacency. Balance pride with humility. Gratitude stabilizes ambition. Dreams are sustained by routines. Design daily actions that support direction. Even small actions maintain momentum. Momentum reinforces belief. Ownership requires self-respect. Treat your dream seriously. Avoid self-sabotage. Avoid constant postponement. Respect your time and energy. As clarity deepens, distractions lose appeal. This is not forced discipline. It is natural alignment. When purpose is clear, choice becomes easier. Remember that dreams can evolve. Growth reveals new interests and capacities. Update vision as understanding increases. Flexibility prevents stagnation. Ultimately, defining clear personal dreams and taking ownership is an act of courage. It requires honesty, patience, discipline, and resilience. It replaces confusion with direction. It transforms effort into meaning. This commitment does not guarantee ease. It guarantees relevance. Each challenge connects to something that matters. Each effort contributes to a coherent life. Ownership is choosing to be the author rather than the audience of your life. It is choosing direction over drift. Define your dream clearly. Accept responsibility fully. Act consistently. Allow time to work. This is how intention becomes reality through disciplined ownership. Chapter 3: Eliminate distractions that pull focus from yourself. Eliminating distractions begins with understanding that distraction is not the enemy of productivity alone, but the enemy of self-direction. When your attention is constantly pulled outward, you lose contact with your own thoughts, priorities, and intentions. Life becomes reactive rather than intentional. Most people do not fail because they lack ability. They fail because their focus is scattered across too many directions that do not serve their growth. Distraction rarely announces itself as harmful. It often appears harmless, comfortable, or even necessary. Notifications, endless content, unnecessary conversations, constant availability, and emotional noise from others slowly drain clarity. Each interruption seems small, yet the cumulative effect is significant. Focus weakens. Motivation fragments. Discipline erodes. Over time, you forget what you were even working toward. The first step is recognizing that attention is finite. You cannot focus deeply on yourself and your growth while constantly responding to external demands. Every time you give attention to something, you are choosing what to neglect. This is not a moral judgment. It is a practical reality. Eliminating distractions means choosing deliberately rather than allowing habits to decide for you. Distractions often serve as avoidance. When progress feels challenging or uncomfortable, the mind seeks relief. Scrolling, watching unnecessary content, engaging in drama, or staying busy with low-value tasks provide temporary escape. This escape has a cost. It postpones growth and reinforces avoidance patterns. Awareness of this pattern weakens its grip. Begin by observing your day without trying to change it immediately. Notice where your time goes. Notice what interrupts focus. Notice which activities leave you feeling empty rather than fulfilled. Observation creates clarity. Clarity creates leverage. One of the most powerful changes is reducing digital noise. Devices are tools, but without boundaries they become controllers. Notifications fragment attention. Even brief interruptions reduce depth of thought. Consider turning off non-essential notifications. Decide specific times to check messages. Protect blocks of uninterrupted time. This is not isolation. It is respect for focus. Another distraction is emotional reactivity. Other people's moods, opinions, and expectations can dominate your attention if you allow them. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every emotion requires action. Learning to pause before reacting preserves energy. Emotional discipline strengthens focus. Conversations can also become distractions when they lack purpose. Not every discussion adds value. Some conversations reinforce negativity, gossip, or stagnation. Be selective with engagement. Silence is often a form of focus. Multitasking is another common distraction disguised as efficiency. Switching tasks reduces effectiveness. It increases mental fatigue. Focusing on one task at a time produces better results in less time. Train yourself to complete before moving on. Physical environment influences attention. Cluttered spaces create mental noise. Simplifying your environment supports clarity. This does not require perfection. Remove items that invite distraction. Create a space associated with focused work or reflection. Time boundaries are essential. Without them, tasks expand unnecessarily. Set limits. Decide how long you will spend on an activity. Use time intentionally rather than letting it dissolve. Distraction also comes from unresolved commitments. Open loops in the mind pull attention away. Write tasks down. Create lists. Externalize responsibilities so your mind can focus. Clarity reduces mental clutter. Another subtle distraction is comparison. Constantly evaluating yourself against others steals focus from your own process. Comparison shifts attention outward and creates unnecessary pressure. Growth requires inward focus. Measure progress against your own standards. Internal distractions matter as much as external ones. Rumination, worry, and self-criticism consume attention. These patterns feel productive but rarely are. Redirecting thought toward constructive action restores focus. When the mind loops, interrupt it with purposeful movement or clear decision-making. Learning to tolerate boredom strengthens focus. Constant stimulation weakens attention span. Allow moments of stillness. Resist the urge to fill every gap with entertainment. Stillness trains patience. Patience supports discipline. Another distraction is overconsumption of information. Consuming without applying creates overload. Limit inputs. Choose quality over quantity. Apply one idea before seeking another. Distraction can also appear as excessive planning. Planning feels productive but can delay action. Balance planning with execution. Action clarifies focus. Social expectations often distract from personal priorities. Being constantly available dilutes attention. It is acceptable to set response times. It is acceptable to prioritize personal growth. Availability should be intentional, not automatic. Learning to say no is a powerful focus tool. Every yes consumes time and energy. Say yes only when aligned with values and direction. Declining respectfully preserves focus. Restlessness often signals lack of clarity. When direction is vague, distraction fills the gap. Clarify priorities daily. Ask what matters today. Focus follows clarity. Another important practice is defining focus rituals. Begin work with a brief pause. End with reflection. Rituals signal the mind to enter focus states. Consistency strengthens this association. Focus improves when goals are broken into small steps. Large, vague tasks invite avoidance. Specific actions invite engagement. Progress fuels focus. Distractions also arise from fatigue. Lack of rest reduces willpower. Protect sleep. Manage energy. Physical care supports mental focus. News and constant updates can consume attention without adding value. Limit exposure. Stay informed intentionally rather than habitually. Emotional overload weakens clarity. Learning to sit with discomfort is essential. Focused effort can feel uncomfortable. Discomfort does not signal danger. It signals growth. Tolerating discomfort strengthens concentration. Another distraction is perfectionism. Waiting for ideal conditions delays action. Accept imperfection. Begin anyway. Focus improves through practice, not waiting. Repetition builds focus capacity. Each focused session strengthens attention. Like a muscle, focus grows with use. Inconsistency weakens it. Distraction often hides in business. Busy schedules can mask lack of progress. Evaluate tasks based on impact rather than activity. Choose tasks that move you forward. Accountability supports focus. Share intentions with trusted individuals. External accountability reinforces internal commitment. Choose wisely. Distraction also comes from unresolved emotions. Address issues directly. Avoidance prolongs distraction. Resolution restores focus. Practicing mindfulness improves attention. Brief moments of awareness train presence. Presence reduces reactivity. Reactivity fuels distraction. Music and sound can either support or disrupt focus. Choose intentionally. Silence often deepens concentration. Another powerful shift is reducing decision fatigue. Simplify choices. Establish routines. Fewer decisions free attention for meaningful work. Focus is not constant. It fluctuates. Accept fluctuations without judgment. Return gently to task. Persistence matters more than intensity. Protecting focus requires identity. See yourself as someone who values attention. Identity guides behavior. Behavior reinforces identity. Focus deepens when purpose is clear. Connect tasks to meaning. Meaning sustains effort. Eliminating distractions is an ongoing practice, not a one-time fix. New distractions appear as circumstances change. Remain vigilant. Progress feels quieter with fewer distractions. Peace increases. Clarity sharpens. Direction stabilizes. Ultimately, eliminating distractions is an act of respect toward yourself. It is choosing presence over noise. It is choosing intention over impulse. Focus creates space for growth. Growth requires focus. Protect your attention deliberately. It shapes who you become. Chapter 40. Build daily habits that strengthen discipline and confidence. Daily habits are the small choices that shape your character over time, and they are the most reliable way to build both discipline and self-belief. Discipline is not an on-off switch that some people awake with and others never find. Discipline is a set of repeated actions that your body and mind learn to expect. Confidence is the natural result of having done the hard things in enough times that you no longer wonder whether you can do them. The work is simple in concept and often difficult in practice, but the path is clear if you design it with care. Begin by choosing a single keystone habit that matters more than any other for your current goals. A keystone habit is a practice that creates momentum across other areas of life. It could be a short morning movement routine, a 10-minute reading habit, writing a single paragraph toward a goal, or planning the top 3 activities for the day. Pick one practice you can complete reliably on most days, even when energy is low. Small, reliable wins build the muscle of follow-through. Use obvious cues to trigger the new habit. A cue can be time-based, like the moment your feet hit the floor, location-based like a chair at your desk, or action-based like after brushing your teeth. When the cue is consistent, your brain links it to a response, and the behavior becomes more automatic. Place the cue where you cannot ignore it, and remove friction between the cue and the action. If the habit is reading, keep a book on your pillow. If it is exercise, keep your shoes beside your bed. The fewer steps between cue and action, the more likely you are to follow through. Start with tiny steps. If a new habit feels large, shrink it until it is so small resistance disappears. A single push-up is a valid beginning. 1 minute of focused writing is enough to begin. The goal is not to achieve everything at once. The goal is to prove to yourself that you can start, and then to extend the length or intensity gradually. Tiny, consistent steps compound into real results faster than sporadic bursts of intensity. Stack new habits onto existing routines. Use an established behavior as an anchor and add the new action immediately after. After making coffee, practice gratitude aloud. After showering, practice breathing exercises. This method leverages existing structure and reduces the mental energy spent deciding when to act. Habit stacking is practical and effective because it binds new actions to memories that are already strong. Track progress visibly. Marking a calendar or using a simple tracker creates momentum because seeing a chain of completed days is emotionally reinforcing. Break a streak and the urge to repair it strengthens commitment. Tracking does not have to be complex. A mark on a paper calendar, a dot in a notebook, or entering a short note on your phone is sufficient. The purpose is to make progress undeniable. Design your environment to favor success and minimize temptation. Willpower is limited, so rely on structure rather than sheer force. Move distractions out of reach. Place tools for the habit within easy sight. If sugary snacks derail focus, keep them out of the house. If noise interferes with concentration, create a quiet corner or use noise-reducing headphones. The environment is the silent partner in habit formation, and rearranging it simplifies decisions. Plan for obstacles ahead of time. Write down 3 situations that are likely to break your routine and specify exactly how you will respond to each. If travel interrupts your schedule, prepare a portable version of the habit. If emotional overload appears, reduce the habit to its smallest form rather than abandoning it. Creating these contingency plans in advance prevents the common failure of waiting for perfect conditions and instead enables steady behavior under real-life pressure. Use implementation intentions to remove ambiguity. Instead of a vague goal like, "I will read more," form a clear plan such as, "After dinner I will read 1 page for 10 minutes in the living room." An implementation intention answers when, where, and how. Precision turns desire into an actionable instruction that the mind can execute. Pair accountability with privacy. Tell one trusted person about your new practice and arrange a weekly check-in. Public declarations can be motivating, but they can also create pressure and shame when you falter. A single reliable accountability partner who offers encouragement and honest feedback is more valuable than broadcasting every attempt. Accountability increases the cost of skipping a commitment and raises the chance of consistency. Measure effort, not outcomes, when building discipline. Focus on the behaviors you control and not the results that depend on many variables. Set standards for how often or how long you will practice rather than for how much progress you will achieve. This mindset preserves motivation when external results lag and reinforces the dignity of consistent work. Make failure part of the plan and practice recovery strategies. Missing a day or slipping is not evidence of inability. It is information about what needs adjusting. When a lapse occurs, record what triggered it and how you felt. Then apply a quick corrective step and resume the routine. The speed with which you return to practice is more important than the duration of the lapse. Introduce variety deliberately to prevent boredom while maintaining the core habit. If the habit is exercise, rotate activities to keep the body engaged. If the habit is learning, cycle topics to maintain interest. Variety prevents stagnation without sacrificing the cumulative effect of repeated practice. Celebrate small victories in a way that supports further action. Recognize completed streaks and honor them with modest rewards that do not undermine the habit. A simple ritual of acknowledging the effort works better than extravagant rewards that create dependency. Recognition builds identity. Each acknowledged success tells your mind the story you want to belong to. Cultivate a growth-oriented inner voice. The language used in private matters. Replace self-undermining thoughts like, "I always fail at this," with observation statements such as, "I missed yesterday but I can resume today." This shift from blaming to neutral description reduces emotional friction and improves your ability to persist. Create performance rituals that prepare the mind and body for focused practice. A short pre-habit routine like deep breathing 3 times, 2 minutes of silence, or quick stretching signals transition into productive work. Rituals reduce decision fatigue and create consistency by establishing a familiar sequence that primes concentration. Use time blocking to protect focused segments of your day. Dedicate specific pockets of time to the most important habits and treat them as appointments that cannot be moved without real consideration. During these blocks, remove possible interruptions and commit to single tasking. Regular protected time builds deep workability and strengthens the discipline muscle. Leverage public commitment sparingly and wisely. Sharing a defined deadline or deliverable with a small group can create external pressure that increases follow-through. Make the commitment meaningful and precise so that the social consequence is a true incentive. Public accountability should be used to accelerate serious projects rather than to seek applause for small efforts. Invest in quality rest and recovery. Exhaustion undermines discipline. Regular sleep, short periods of disconnect, and intentional leisure replenish focus and reduce the likelihood of reactive behaviors. Schedule downtime with the same respect given to productive blocks so that rest becomes a predictable part of the system rather than a reward for overwork. Practice mental rehearsals for difficult tasks. Visualize the steps, the environment, and how you will handle obstacles. Short mental rehearsals reduce anxiety and increase the probability that the body will follow through. Visualization is preparation, not superstition. Anchor identity to practice. Use identity statements that reflect who you are becoming rather than what you do. Replace "I am trying to be disciplined" with "I am someone who follows through on small promises." When identity aligns with action, the choice to act becomes simpler and more automatic. Audit your commitments periodically. Remove obligations that no longer align with priorities. Each commitment consumes mental and physical bandwidth. Freeing bandwidth allows greater consistency for the habits that matter most. Teach others or document your process to reinforce learning. Explaining a habit to someone else clarifies your own understanding and strengthens motivation. Sharing practical insights with a friend or keeping a short journal helps solidify the habit into routine. Pair habit practice with sensory cues that enhance memory and motivation. A specific scent, a particular playlist, or a tangible object associated with the routine can deepen the brain's association and make initiation easier. Choose cues that do not distract but subtly signal readiness. Respect the gradual nature of change. Transformations that last are rarely dramatic. They are the product of thousands of small decisions aligned over time. Keep perspective and avoid the temptation to evaluate progress solely by immediate outcomes. Finally, treat confidence as an outcome of repeated competence. Each completed habit is evidence that you can be trusted to act. Collect those moments deliberately and review them when self-doubt arises. Confidence grows not from declarations, but from archives of small, completed tasks that demonstrate capability. Daily habits are not glamorous, but they are decisive. Design them with intelligence and kindness. Protect them with structure and adjust them with curiosity. Over time, the quiet accumulation of disciplined practice produces a clear and steady courage that changes how you act and how you approach possibility. Chapter 5. Set firm boundaries that protect your time energy. Setting firm boundaries is not an act of rejection toward others, but an act of responsibility toward yourself. Your time and energy are limited resources, and how you protect them determines the quality of your life. Without boundaries, even the most disciplined person becomes scattered. Effort leaks into obligations that do not matter, conversations that go nowhere, and expectations that were never consciously chosen. Over time, this erosion creates fatigue, resentment, and loss of direction. Boundaries restore order. They clarify what deserves your attention and what does not. Many people struggle with boundaries because they confuse them with selfishness. They believe that being available at all times is kindness and that saying yes proves value. In reality, constant availability weakens both respect and effectiveness. When you say yes to everything, your yes loses meaning. When you protect your time intentionally, your commitments gain weight. Boundaries allow you to show up fully where it truly matters instead of being partially present everywhere. The foundation of strong boundaries is clarity. You must know what you are protecting before you can protect it. This begins with identifying your priorities. What activities support your growth? What responsibilities are essential? What relationships are reciprocal and healthy? Without this clarity, boundaries feel arbitrary and guilt easily breaks them. When priorities are clear, boundaries feel logical rather than defensive. Time boundaries are often the first to address. Time is the easiest resource to give away and the hardest to recover. Many people allow their days to be shaped by other people's urgency rather than their own intention. Meetings extend unnecessarily. Messages are answered instantly. Tasks expand because no limits were set. Setting time boundaries means deciding in advance how long you will give to an activity and honoring that decision. It means scheduling your priorities rather than hoping they fit into leftover hours. Energy boundaries are equally important. Not every task drains energy equally. Some activities may be brief yet exhausting. Some interactions may feel polite but leave you depleted. Pay attention to what consistently reduces your clarity and motivation. Energy awareness allows smarter decisions. You are not obligated to engage in every request simply because you can. Capacity matters. Emotional boundaries protect your inner stability. Other people's moods, opinions, and reactions can consume your attention if you absorb them unconsciously. Emotional boundaries allow you to listen without carrying weight that does not belong to you. This does not mean indifference. It means discernment. You can care without being controlled. You can support without sacrificing composure. A common challenge is guilt. Guilt arises when boundaries are new because others may react with confusion or resistance. This discomfort is temporary. Guilt does not indicate wrongdoing. It often signals that you are changing patterns. When guilt appears, pause and evaluate whether the boundary aligns with your values. If it does, hold it calmly. Over time, consistency reduces resistance. Boundaries require clear communication. Vague signals create misunderstandings. You do not need lengthy explanations. Simple, direct statements are sufficient. I am unavailable during these hours. I need time to focus. I cannot commit to this right now. Clarity prevents resentment. Over-explanation invites negotiation. State boundaries calmly and repeat them when necessary. It is important to align boundaries with behavior. Saying you value focus while constantly interrupting yourself sends mixed signals. Protect your own boundaries internally before expecting others to respect them. This includes limiting self-imposed distractions and honoring commitments you make to yourself. Self-respect strengthens external boundaries. Another aspect of boundaries is learning to say no without apology. An apology implies fault. Declining a request is not a moral failure. It is a decision. Thanking someone for the opportunity while declining preserves respect. You are allowed to choose. Boundaries also apply to work. Without limits, work expands endlessly. Define start and end times. Decide what constitutes acceptable urgency. Communicate availability. Sustainable productivity depends on rest and recovery. Burning out serves no one. Strong boundaries make performance more consistent. Digital boundaries are increasingly important. Constant connectivity creates an illusion of necessity. Few messages require immediate response. Decide when you will check communication. Disable notifications that fragment attention. Protect deep work time. Your focus is valuable. Social boundaries preserve emotional health. Not every relationship deserves equal access. Some connections are supportive. Others are draining. Evaluate patterns rather than intentions. Reduce exposure to negativity. Choose environments that encourage growth. Boundaries also protect long-term goals. Short-term requests can derail long-term direction if accepted impulsively. When evaluating opportunities, consider alignment. Does this support or distract from your path? Alignment clarifies decisions. Internal boundaries matter as much as external ones. Set limits on rumination, self-criticism, and mental rehearsal of past events. When the mind drifts into unproductive loops, redirect it. Mental discipline preserves energy. Another challenge is fear of disappointing others. Disappointment is unavoidable when living intentionally. Avoiding disappointment leads to self-abandonment. Temporary discomfort is preferable to long-term resentment. Respect grows when boundaries are consistent. Boundaries evolve as circumstances change. Review them periodically. What once served may need adjustment. Flexibility does not weaken boundaries. Awareness strengthens them. Teaching others how to treat you is a gradual process. Boundaries require repetition. Calm repetition signals seriousness. Inconsistency invites testing. Consistency builds trust. Boundaries are also about what you allow yourself to tolerate. Disrespect, chronic chaos, unrealistic expectations. Accepting these conditions trains others to continue them. Address issues early. Delayed boundaries become confrontations. Rest is a boundary. Protect sleep. Protect downtime. Treat recovery as essential, not optional. Energy restored multiplies effectiveness. A powerful boundary is limiting decision fatigue. Reduce unnecessary choices. Establish routines. Fewer decisions free mental space for meaningful work. Boundaries support identity. When you honor them, you reinforce self-respect. Self-respect strengthens confidence. Confidence simplifies choices. Boundaries do not isolate you. They clarify relationships. Healthy connections adapt. Unhealthy ones resist. This information is useful. Another subtle boundary is resisting the urge to explain your growth to everyone. Not all changes require announcements. Quiet consistency communicates more effectively. Boundaries also protect creativity. Creativity needs space. Without boundaries, creativity is crowded out by noise. Learning to pause before agreeing builds boundaries. Replace immediate yes with I will consider it. This pause allows alignment checks. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters. They allow what supports you and block what drains you. Protecting time and energy is a daily practice. Some days you will enforce boundaries easily. Other days you will adjust. Progress is cumulative. As boundaries strengthen, life feels calmer. Decisions feel lighter. Focus improves. Energy stabilizes. Ultimately, boundaries are an expression of self-leadership. They reflect clarity, values, and direction. They allow you to invest your life where it matters most. Protect your time. Protect your energy. They shape your future more than any external opportunity. Chapter 60. Practice self-trust through consistent small actions. Trust in yourself is built the same way muscles are built, through incremental and honest effort repeated over time. Confidence that lasts is not borrowed from applause or sudden success. It grows when promises to yourself are kept, even when those promises are small and invisible to others. The brain learns reliability by accumulating evidence that what you say you will do is what you actually do. Each completed small action is a deposit into an account of self-trust that pays out as courage to take larger steps later. Begin by making one tiny promise you can keep every day. The promise must be specific, measurable, and short enough that missing it feels avoidable rather than inevitable. A useful rule is that the action should take no more than 5 minutes at first. A clear, short commitment reduces excuses and increases the chance of success. The point is not the action itself, but the repeated verification to your inner mind that you are dependable. Create a visible record of these small commitments. A simple method is to mark a calendar or tick a checkbox each day the promise is fulfilled. The visual chain becomes a psychological anchor. When the chain grows, it provides tangible proof of consistency. When a break happens, the urge to repair the chain is a natural motivator to return to the behavior quickly. This external record converts private intent into public evidence for your own eyes. Make the habit of keeping promises automatic by pairing the small action with something already established in your day. Place the new action immediately after an existing routine so the context triggers the practice naturally. Anchoring reduces the load on willpower and makes the behavior feel like a seamless part of the day rather than an extra chore. Practice precision when defining what you will do. Vague commitments breed excuses. Saying I will practice grounding for 5 minutes at 80 Hojas AM is stronger than a general intent to be more present. Clear plans remove mental negotiation and leave only execution. The mind favors clear instructions over fuzzy intentions. Honor the principle of gradual escalation. After a streak of reliable completion, extend the practice slightly. Increase duration or add a small challenge that remains manageable. This progression trains resilience by exposing you to slightly greater demands without overwhelming capacity. Growth occurs at the edge of comfort, not by leaping into extremes. When lapses happen, analyze them calmly. Identify the immediate cause and adjust the system rather than criticize character. Did the environment permit distraction? Was the timing unrealistic? Did an emotional state prevent action? A quick practical fix often restores reliability more effectively than long explanations to oneself. Repair quickly and resume the commitments. Speed of recovery matters more than the absence of failure. Use specific language to frame your intentions to yourself. Replace ambiguous phrases like I will try with concrete ones, such as I will complete this 5-minute practice after brushing my teeth. The words used internally influence behavior. Clear statements set the expectation for follow-through. Create low-friction conditions for each action. Remove obstacles that make the smallest tasks feel onerous. Prepare what is needed the night before. Keep tools in consistent places. Complexity defeats consistency, so simplify access to the things that enable your promises. Practice saying no to requests that would compromise the smallest commitments. Defending micro-promises is training for defending larger priorities later. No has to be respectful but firm. Repeatedly allowing interruptions teaches the mind that private commitments are optional. Refusing minor diversions teaches respect for your own time and thereby strengthens trust. Build a short ritual around the action to signal its importance to your nervous system. A brief preparation routine like 2 intentional breaths, a moment of focus, or a single sentence of intention primes the mind to shift gears. Rituals act as mental transitions and increase the likelihood of meaningful engagement rather than mechanical checking of boxes. Track progress in a journal that captures not just successes, but the feelings surrounding them. Writing 1 sentence about how a completed action made you feel anchors the experience emotionally. Over time, this journal becomes an archive of competence to review when confidence wavers. Reading past entries reinforces the memory that you are capable of consistent effort. Allow accountability to support you selectively. Sharing a simple goal with one trusted person increases the social cost of skipping it without turning every private habit into public performance. Accountability partners should be chosen for steadiness and encouragement rather than spectacle. A brief weekly check-in that focuses on facts rather than judgment increases the pressure to follow through in a healthy way. Expose yourself gradually to small challenges that test reliability under real conditions. Intentionally practice the commitment in different contexts so performance becomes transferable rather than context-dependent. The ability to keep promises while tired or busy is the most meaningful proof of self-trust. Treat setbacks as data points for adjustment. Avoid using failure to shame yourself. Constructive curiosity about what went wrong yields usable information and prevents repetitive mistakes. When patterns emerge, address system flaws rather than increasing willpower demands alone. Reinforce identity through language. Describe yourself in terms of reliability rather than possibility. Statements such as "I am someone who follows through on small promises" shift internal narratives. Repeated actions will eventually align identity with behavior and make consistent behavior easier. Design small experiments to iterate rapidly. Test different times, methods, and environments to discover what best supports your small actions. Experiments reduce paranoia about perfect conditions and produce actionable knowledge about what truly works for you. Keep experiments short and evaluate them by whether they improve completion rates. Practice forgiveness when a lapse becomes a stumbling block. Harsh self-punishment undermines future attempts. A brief acknowledgement of the oversight, a corrective action, and a return to practice is a healthier sequence. Forgiveness is not an excuse for drift. It is a plan to restore function quickly. Use boundaries to protect your micro-commitments. Communicate brief, unavailable periods during which you will honor your private work. Clear signals reduce interruptions and teach others how you manage time. Consistent defense of small blocks increases the likelihood that those blocks remain intact. Apply the same approach to emotional promises. Commit to small acts that support emotional health, like 1 minute of breathing before responding or journaling, one brief thought about a difficult feeling. Completing these emotional micro-actions shows yourself that you can manage inner states and not only external tasks. Create a habit of regular reflection that focuses on evidence over emotion. Weekly reviews that list completed micro-promises and the approximate effort required produce a realistic sense of competence. Reviewing data rather than moods stabilizes confidence because facts are less volatile than feelings. Link micro-commitments to personal values. When actions clearly reflect what matters to you, they feel less arbitrary and more meaningful. A promise aligned with values is easier to defend and more likely to survive pressure. Practice progressive responsibility by gradually taking on slightly larger promises as reliability grows. Use a staged approach to expand influence rather than impulsively accepting significant obligations early in the process. Consistent small wins create the foundation needed for sustainable ambition. Remember that self-trust is built in private and paid out in public. The quiet labor of honoring small actions enables courageous decisions under scrutiny. When the inner ledger shows consistent deposits, you will be prepared to act decisively when stakes rise. Cultivate habits of preparation to reduce excuses. Organizing the evening prior, setting minimal cues, and planning contingencies decreases friction for morning or situational commitments. Preparation is pre-commitment. It is a practical investment in future reliability. When opportunities to test your trustworthiness appear, meet them deliberately. Small public deliveries that you complete reinforce reputation both internally and externally. Reliability attracts responsibility because others notice consistent follow-through. Use constraints to sharpen focus. Limiting the scope of a practice makes success easier and accelerates learning. Constraints force choice and prevent diffusion of effort across too many nascent commitments. Make self-trust visible through a simple portfolio of achievements. A list of completed streaks, brief projects, and small challenges provides a rapid boost during doubt. Keep this portfolio accessible and review it when hesitation grows. Challenge the habit of waiting for permission or perfect timing. Begin with what is possible now and refine the approach. Starting imperfectly builds both skill and credibility faster than waiting for a flawless plan. Maintain a steady schedule of rest to prevent burnout from erosion of confidence. Physical exhaustion undermines follow-through and makes promises harder to keep. Prioritizing recovery is a practical strategy to sustain reliability. Develop a short pre-commitment script to use when commitments must be defended. A polite and direct phrase that states your availability or limit reduces indecision and protects your micro-promises with minimal explanation. Respect the accumulation of small actions by not trivializing them. Acknowledge that tiny consistent steps outpace sporadic bursts of intensity. Treat each completed action as useful evidence rather than an insignificant task. Gradually expand the range of conditions under which you keep promises. Practicing consistency during travel stress or emotional volatility demonstrates that reliability is not tied to ideal conditions but is an attribute of character. Embed occasional challenge days where multiple small commitments are intentionally tested together to build endurance. These days serve as practical stress tests that show whether the systems you designed hold up under pressure. Track qualitative shifts in behavior, not only quantitative marks. Notice how responses to stress change, how decisions feel simpler, and how the impulse to avoid decreases. These subtle shifts are honest measures of growing self-trust. Consistent small actions produce a quiet but powerful transformation. Over time, the habit of following through changes how you regard yourself and how the world regards you. Keep promises that you can keep. Protect them with simple systems. Repair quickly when breaks occur. The cumulative certainty of small faithful acts creates a steady inner authority that makes larger goals achievable and life more navigable. Chapter 7. Replace external validation with internal self-respect. Seeking approval from others becomes a habit that quietly directs many choices and limits real freedom. When worth is tied to outside reactions, every decision becomes a negotiation and every success feels fragile. Internal self-respect changes the rules. It replaces the need for applause with a steady standard you can live by. This shift does not remove feedback or connection. It simply makes your inner voice the primary measure of value so that outside responses matter, but do not determine your sense of worth. Begin by separating praise from identity. Praise can be useful information, but it is not the foundation of who you are. Notice how moods rise and fall after compliments or criticism. That fluctuation shows how much attention you give to other people's opinions. Practice responding to both praise and critique with a brief pause instead of an immediate emotional reaction. Pausing creates distance and prevents your sense of self from being reshaped every time someone speaks. Identify core values that matter regardless of external approval. Values are personal rules about how you want to act and what you want to stand for. Write down 3 to 5 values and describe what each one looks like in everyday behavior. When a choice arises, check which option aligns with your values rather than which option will earn the most praise. Acting in line with values produces a steadier sense of worth than any number of compliments can provide. Create a private standard for success. External metrics can help measure performance, but your internal standard answers the question of whether you acted with integrity, effort, and care. After finishing an important task, ask 2 quick questions silently. Did I do this to the best of my ability today? Did I act in a way that aligns with who I want to be? Use these answers to guide future action. Over time, the standard becomes your internal referee. Practice small private rituals that reinforce respect for yourself. These are not public shows for validation, but quiet habits that communicate your value to you. Examples include preparing a simple morning routine that honors your body and mind, writing 1 honest line in a journal each night about what was done well, or pausing to breathe and stand straight before important conversations. These tiny rituals build an internal culture of care that does not depend on outside reactions. Limit activities that were designed to collect approval rather than serve purpose. Notice when actions are motivated by needing praise rather than by meaningful reasons. Reduce time spent on tasks that feel performative. Replace them with activities that develop skill, character, or service. Skill builds confidence. Service shifts focus from how you are seen to how you help others. Both cultivate respect grounded in action. Set boundaries that protect the development of self-respect. When people demand energy for drama or constant reassurance, it erodes calm and clarity. Communicate limits calmly and stick to them. Saying no to requests that drain you is not rude, it is stewardship of your capacity. Maintaining these boundaries shows others that you treat your time and attention as valuable and non-negotiable. Practice receiving feedback differently. When someone offers praise, accept it briefly and then return to your internal evaluation. When someone criticizes, ask one clarifying question and decide whether the feedback aligns with your values and goals before responding. If it is useful, apply it without turning it into a verdict on your worth. If it is not useful, set it aside. This habit keeps external input from becoming a verdict and turns it into data. Use a short daily reflection to reinforce internal metrics. Each evening, note one action that represented your values, one area where you can improve, and one thing you completed despite fear or discomfort. Keep these notes factual and brief. Over weeks, they accumulate into evidence of steady development that you can point to when doubt surfaces. Practice public humility and private pride. Share accomplishments modestly when appropriate, but cultivate an inner archive of wins that you review privately. This private archive can be a simple list of completed projects, short notes about difficult conversations you handled well, or records of habits you kept. When external recognition is absent, this archive supplies proof that your effort matters. Reduce dependence on social media as a mood driver. Social platforms are optimized for quick reactions, which train the mind to seek external signals constantly. Limit time and chosen activities there intentionally. Use social media with a purpose, such as sharing a useful idea or connecting with a small group, rather than for mood regulation. Create tech rules like scheduled check-ins and notification limits to protect emotional stability. Build competence deliberately. Skills produce reliable confidence because they create real capability that does not vanish with public opinion. Choose one skill to improve over a set period and create a simple practice plan. Focused competence reduces the temptation to chase validation because results become self-evident and meaningful. Adopt language that supports internal respect. Replace phrases that seek permission or approval with statements of intention. Instead of asking for validation, use declarative sentences about what you will do and why. Speaking with clarity to yourself and others trains a more grounded posture and reduces the habit of fishing for approval. Practice failure as feedback, not as identity. When a setback happens, separate the performance from the person. Analyze what went wrong, correct the approach, and move on. Repeating the same compassionate and practical recovery routine after failures teaches the mind that mistakes are manageable and do not erase worth. Lean into service and contribution. When priorities include helping others in practical ways, the need for personal approval often diminishes. Contribution shifts focus from receiving to giving and creates a sense of usefulness that is more enduring than applause. Look for small, consistent ways to add value in work, community, or family life. Seek out models who demonstrate internal respect rather than constant attention-seeking. Study people who work quietly and consistently. Notice how they respond to praise and criticism. Learn from their habits and adopt practical elements that fit your life. Modeling helps because it provides a real pattern to follow rather than abstract advice. Cultivate emotional independence by practicing decision routines that do not require immediate social approval. When deciding on important matters, run a short internal checklist. Does this align with my values? Does this respect my time? Does this support my goals? Use this checklist as a filter before seeking outside input. Over time, you will rely less on others to decide what matters. Create experiments that test your reliance on external signals. For short periods, reduce visibility about a project or practice intentionally and observe how it affects motivation. If motivation collapses, that reveals where approval habits are strongest. Use this insight to redesign systems so that actions are sustained by internal rewards like skill growth and personal meaning. Develop a habit of gratitude focused on personal capability. Each day, note one thing you accomplished by your effort or decision. Gratitude for your own actions builds positive internal feedback loops and reduces the need to fish for compliments from others. Protect your inner critic by reframing its voice into a coach. When the critic appears, rephrase the comment into a helpful prompt, such as "What can I do next?" rather than a verdict on character. A coaching mindset turns self-judgment into useful direction and preserves dignity. Practice saying out loud simple affirmations of ownership over choices. Short statements like "I choose this because it matters" or "I accept responsibility for my part" anchor decisions in agency rather than approval seeking. Spoken sentences carry a different weight and help the mind accept new rules. Surround yourself selectively with people who model internal respect. Relationships where mutual care and honest feedback exist create a secure base that reduces approval dependency. Seek companions who challenge gently and celebrate without needing to control how you feel. Accept that some discomfort will come as approval becomes less central. People accustomed to your compliance may react. That reaction does not invalidate the shift. It simply signals a change in patterns you no longer support. Stay steady and respond with clarity, not justification. Finally, remind yourself daily that personal worth is cumulative and private. It cannot be fully conveyed by any single comment or event. The sum of consistent choices, daily care, and honest effort defines real value. External recognition is a bonus, not the foundation. When choices are anchored in respect for yourself, the noise of approval fades and steady purpose takes its place. Chapter 80. Learn from setbacks without quitting your personal vision. Setbacks arrive without asking permission and often appear at the exact moment commitment feels strongest. They interrupt momentum, challenge confidence, and test whether a personal vision is a temporary desire or a deeply held direction. The difference between people who quietly abandon their path and those who continue is not talent or luck. It is the ability to extract meaning from difficulty without letting that difficulty redefine who they are or where they are going. A setback does not cancel a vision. It only exposes gaps between intention and execution. When something falls apart, the mind often rushes to global conclusions. Thoughts become absolute and emotional. Everything feels broken even when only one part failed. The first discipline is to shrink the setback back to its true size. Name exactly what went wrong without attaching a story about your identity. Precision protects clarity. Vagueness fuels discouragement. Detachment is not denial. It is the ability to observe events without letting them consume the inner narrative. When plans fail, step back mentally and describe the situation as if you were advising someone else. This perspective removes unnecessary emotional weight and creates space for learning. You are not stepping away from responsibility. You are stepping away from distortion. Every setback carries information, but only if you are calm enough to read it. Ask what the event is teaching about preparation, timing, strategy, or assumptions. Look for process errors rather than personal flaws. Process can be adjusted. Identity does not need to be attacked. Treat the experience like data collected through effort. Data has no emotion. It simply points to improvement. One of the greatest dangers after failure is impulsive quitting. Quitting often feels like relief because it ends discomfort. That relief is temporary. It trades short-term comfort for long-term regret. Before making any decision about abandoning a goal, impose a waiting period. Commit to not deciding while emotions are loud. Time restores proportion and protects long-range thinking. Revisit the original vision without rewriting it through disappointment. Ask why it mattered before the setback occurred. Separate the purpose from the current obstacle. The obstacle is new. The purpose likely remains. Reconnecting with purpose prevents the mind from rewriting history to justify quitting. Adjust expectations without lowering standards. A setback may indicate that the timeline was unrealistic or that resources were insufficient. Adjusting the plan is not a betrayal of the vision. It is an expression of respect for reality. Flexibility in approach strengthens persistence in direction. Language matters during recovery. Avoid phrases that imply finality or character judgment. Replace statements of defeat with neutral descriptions of events. Words shape emotional response. Neutral language keeps the nervous system steady enough to think clearly and continue. Small corrective actions restore momentum faster than dramatic overhauls. Identify one practical step that addresses what you learned and complete it quickly. Action re-establishes agency. Waiting for confidence before acting prolongs stagnation. Confidence often returns after movement, not before it. Resist comparison during vulnerable moments. Observing others' progress while processing a setback distorts perception. You are seeing highlights without context. Progress is uneven for everyone, even when it looks smooth from the outside. Measure progress against your own prior position, not against someone else's apparent success. Accept that discomfort is part of meaningful pursuits. If a vision truly matters, it will expose limits and create friction. Expecting a smooth path sets you up to interpret normal resistance as a sign to stop. Difficulty does not mean wrong direction. It often means growth is occurring. Build a recovery routine for setbacks before the next one arrives. This routine might include stepping away briefly, reflecting in writing, adjusting the plan, and then taking one immediate action. Having a routine removes decision fatigue during emotional moments and prevents overreaction. Guard against all or nothing thinking. A setback does not erase previous effort or progress. It is one chapter, not the entire story. Remind yourself of skills gained and obstacles already overcome. Continuity matters. Growth compounds even when results pause. Seek feedback selectively. Not everyone's opinion is useful after a failure. Choose sources who understand your goals and can offer constructive insight rather than emotional reactions. Too many voices can dilute clarity and increase doubt. Recommit privately before announcing anything publicly. Recommitment is an internal decision, not a performance. Public declarations made too early can add pressure or invite external doubt. Strengthen resolve quietly first. Let actions speak later. Forgive yourself quickly but honestly. Self-punishment feels responsible, but it drains energy needed for improvement. Acknowledge mistakes without rehearsing them repeatedly. Learning requires honesty. Progress requires mercy. Both can coexist. Protect daily structure during recovery. When a major goal stumbles, routines often collapse. Maintain basic habits like sleep, movement, and focused work blocks. Stability in small things prevents emotional spirals and preserves identity as someone who shows up consistently. Remember that persistence is not stubbornness. Persistence listens, adapts, and continues. Stubbornness ignores reality. Let setbacks teach you how to move smarter, not smaller. Growth respects feedback while honoring direction. Visualize the long arc rather than the immediate moment. Most meaningful achievements look messy when viewed up close. Only with distance do patterns of resilience become visible. Imagine how this moment will be interpreted years later as part of a longer narrative of development. Reframe success as staying aligned rather than staying comfortable. Alignment means continuing to act in accordance with your values even when outcomes disappoint. This definition prevents setbacks from hijacking self-worth and keeps identity stable. Keep evidence of progress visible. Track skills built, lessons learned, and effort invested. When results lag, evidence of growth provides motivation to continue. Progress is not always measured by external wins. Internal capability often precedes visible outcomes. Finally, understand that quitting a vision because of a setback teaches the mind a dangerous lesson. It teaches that discomfort equals retreat. Continuing teaches resilience, discernment, and self-leadership. Each time you stay engaged despite disappointment, you reinforce the belief that your direction is worth protecting. Setbacks then become part of the training rather than reasons to stop. The vision remains intact because you choose to carry it forward with clarity, patience, and earned wisdom. Chapter 9c. Design routines that align actions with long-term goals. Long-term goals fail most often not because they were unrealistic, but because daily actions were never truly connected to them. People imagine the future they want while living days that quietly move in a different direction. The gap between intention and routine is where dreams slowly lose strength. Designing routines that align actions with long-term goals is the discipline of closing that gap with honesty and structure. A routine is not a rigid schedule meant to control life. It is a decision system that removes constant choice from moments that matter. When actions are left to motivation, they become inconsistent. When actions are embedded into routine, they become reliable. Reliability is what transforms goals from ideas into outcomes. The first step is clarity about what long-term goals actually require on a daily level. Many goals feel large and abstract. They live in the future and seem disconnected from today. The task is to bring them into the present by asking what kind of person must be practiced daily for that future to exist. Long-term success is rarely built through occasional effort. It is built through ordinary actions repeated without drama. Routines begin with identity rather than tasks. Instead of focusing on what must be done, focus on who you are becoming. A person who values health behaves differently each morning than someone who only wishes to be healthy. A person committed to mastery treats practice differently than someone who only enjoys results. When identity leads, routine actions follow more naturally. Time is often blamed when goals are neglected, but time is rarely the true issue. Attention is. Daily routines must reflect priorities honestly. If an action does not appear regularly in your day, it is not a priority regardless of how important it feels in thought. Routines force truth. They reveal what you actually value through what you repeatedly do. Design routines around energy, not just hours. Some tasks require focus and mental clarity. Others require repetition and patience. Place demanding actions during periods of highest energy. Use lower energy periods for maintenance tasks. This alignment reduces friction and increases consistency without relying on force. Start smaller than your ambition suggests. A routine that is too heavy will collapse under its own weight. Consistency beats intensity. A simple daily practice performed without interruption will outperform complex plans executed sporadically. The goal of a routine is sustainability, not exhaustion. Anchor important actions to existing behaviors. This reduces the effort needed to remember or initiate them. When a new habit is linked to something already stable, it becomes easier to maintain. Structure removes the need for constant self-negotiation, which is mentally draining. Remove unnecessary decisions from your routine. Decision fatigue weakens discipline. Choose in advance when and how key actions will happen. Once decided, execution becomes simpler. Freedom increases when fewer choices are needed for important behaviors. Routines should protect progress from mood. Motivation fluctuates. Emotions change. A well-designed routine continues regardless of how you feel. It allows progress on days when enthusiasm is low and prevents overexertion on days when excitement is high. Review routines regularly but adjust them slowly. Constant change creates instability. Give each routine enough time to prove whether it works. Evaluate based on consistency and alignment, not comfort. Discomfort often signals growth rather than failure. Long-term goals require patience, and patience is supported by structure. When progress is slow, routines provide reassurance. They create evidence that effort continues even when results are not yet visible. This prevents doubt from taking control. Build routines that include recovery. Rest, reflection, and quiet time are not rewards. They are part of sustainable performance. Ignoring recovery leads to burnout, which disconnects actions from goals entirely. Balance strengthens discipline rather than weakens it. Guard the start of your day carefully. The opening hours shape mental direction. A calm, intentional beginning sets a tone of self-leadership. Even small actions completed early build momentum that carries forward. Protect routines from external interruption. This requires boundaries and communication. Not everyone will understand or support your structure. Their reaction is not a measure of its value. Consistency often invites resistance before it earns respect. Avoid measuring routines solely by immediate output. Measure by adherence. Showing up matters more than short-term results. Progress compounds quietly through repeated alignment between action and intention. Use routines to reduce internal conflict. When actions are planned in advance, the mind argues less. Energy once spent debating is redirected toward execution. Peace increases as clarity replaces confusion. Allow routines to evolve as goals evolve. Growth changes needs. What aligned once may later need refinement. Adapt without abandoning the principle of alignment. Direction matters more than specific methods. Avoid comparing routines with others. What works for one person may not fit another. Personal context matters. Design systems that respect your responsibilities, energy, and environment. Authentic alignment outperforms borrowed structure. Recognize that discipline expressed through routine is an act of self-respect. It is a daily vote for your future self. Each aligned action reinforces trust in yourself and strengthens commitment. When routines break, do not dramatize the failure. Resume calmly. Perfection is unnecessary. Continuity is powerful. Returning without judgment maintains momentum and protects confidence. Long-term goals are not achieved through constant effort, but through consistent direction. Routines provide that direction quietly and reliably. They turn intention into behavior and behavior into identity. In the end, a well-designed routine is not restrictive. It is freeing. It reduces chaos, increases focus, and ensures that daily life supports rather than competes with your future. When actions align with long-term goals, progress becomes inevitable, not because life is easy, but because direction is clear and effort is organized. Chapter 1: Commit to lifelong self-improvement regardless of opinions. The commitment to lifelong self-improvement is not a project with a deadline, but a continuous journey that defines the quality of life. It is a decision to invest in yourself daily regardless of recognition, results, or opinions from others. True growth requires consistency over time, persistence through challenges, and a focus on becoming better than you were yesterday rather than proving anything to anyone else. External opinions are fleeting and often misinformed. They do not dictate capability, potential, or character. When improvement becomes self-directed and independent of approval, momentum becomes unstoppable. Self-improvement begins with honesty. Examine areas where growth is necessary without judgment or avoidance. Identify strengths that can be leveraged and weaknesses that require attention. Awareness alone creates opportunity. When assessment is clear, action becomes precise rather than random. Clarity reduces wasted effort and prevents discouragement from pursuing irrelevant goals. Develop a daily practice of reflection. Reviewing actions, decisions, and outcomes allows lessons to be extracted efficiently. Reflection is not self-criticism but careful observation of reality. It provides feedback that is more valuable than any praise or criticism from outside sources. Over time, reflection transforms experience into wisdom. Learning becomes a systematic habit rather than chance. Commitment requires discipline. Growth is rarely convenient or comfortable. It often competes with immediate gratification and external pressures. Daily choices to invest effort, even in small ways, accumulate into significant transformation. Consistency matters more than intensity. Completing a small step regularly builds far more momentum than sporadic bursts of effort, and it creates internal trust that you can rely on yourself to keep promises made to your own potential. Set tangible, achievable goals as a roadmap for ongoing development. These goals do not have to be monumental, but should be purposeful and aligned with long-term vision. Measurable objectives provide clarity and accountability, creating markers to gauge progress. Without goals, self-improvement becomes vague and unstructured, making it easier to drift or be swayed by opinions that do not serve your direction. Separate identity from outcomes. Improvement is not a temporary performance, it is the cultivation of a person who acts with intention. Focus on the habits, skills, and mindset that generate progress rather than external indicators of success. When identity aligns with consistent effort, external judgment has minimal impact because value is internally defined. Internal validation fuels perseverance in ways that external validation cannot. Practice resilience in the face of resistance. People may misunderstand, criticize, or discourage growth simply because it challenges the status quo or exposes their own insecurities. Opposition is inevitable, but should be reframed as irrelevant to your commitment. Persistence is built by continuing regardless of opinions, and confidence grows when effort is anchored in personal standards rather than social approval. Strength is measured by how faithfully action is maintained despite noise, not by applause. Prioritize learning over comfort. Continuous self-improvement often requires facing uncertainty, discomfort, or failure. Each challenge provides a lesson when approached deliberately. Mistakes are not evidence of inadequacy, but data for refinement. Reframing setbacks as opportunities to adjust strategies strengthens resolve and prevents fear from limiting action. The journey becomes a series of experiments where each step, even missteps, contributes to the overall trajectory of improvement. Build systems that support growth. Habits, routines, and environments shape behavior and create momentum toward improvement. Systems reduce reliance on willpower alone and make positive action automatic. Choose structures that reinforce desired behaviors and remove friction from efforts that move you forward. Consistency is easier when effort is embedded in a framework rather than left to fluctuating motivation or external approval. Seek knowledge deliberately. Lifelong self-improvement requires intellectual engagement as well as practical action. Reading, observing, and studying provide insight that enhances decision-making and skill acquisition. Knowledge expands perspective and empowers informed choices. Avoid chasing trends or external hype. Focus on information that directly enhances capacity and aligns with your vision of personal growth. Cultivate self-accountability. The most effective teacher is experience combined with reflection. Track progress and hold yourself responsible for effort and results. Avoid excuses or shifting blame for missed actions. Accountability strengthens self-trust and ensures that growth is real rather than theoretical. Internal responsibility becomes a foundation for making consistent progress even in isolation or under scrutiny. Celebrate progress privately. Recognition from others is unreliable, but personal acknowledgement reinforces commitment. Note achievements, improvements in skill, or consistency in practice. These reflections maintain motivation and internal momentum. Reward is not the goal but a reinforcement that effort is observed and respected by the one person whose opinion truly matters you. Embrace adaptability. Growth does not occur in a straight line. Goals, circumstances, and capacities evolve over time. Continuous improvement requires flexibility to adjust strategies while maintaining direction. Adaptation is not surrender, it is intelligent alignment with changing conditions. Lifelong learners remain committed to the overarching vision, even when methods or priorities shift. Guard against complacency. Improvement is a process, never a completed state. Satisfaction with mediocrity signals stagnation. Regularly reevaluate where growth is possible and actively seek challenges that extend ability. Comfort zones restrict potential. Expanding capacity requires deliberate effort beyond habitual routines, habits, or familiar skill sets. Growth is cultivated by confronting what is unfamiliar and difficult. Maintain a supportive environment. Surround yourself with people, resources, and conditions that encourage development. Positive influence reduces friction and accelerates learning while minimizing distractions that promote stagnation. Carefully chosen associations and influences reinforce values and habits rather than undermine them. Independence does not mean isolation, it means constructing an environment that supports resilience and forward movement. Invest in both mental and physical capacity. Sustainable self-improvement requires energy, focus, and resilience. Practices such as exercise, nutrition, rest, and mindfulness amplify cognitive and emotional function. Physical well-being and mental clarity are intertwined, forming the foundation for reliable action. Neglecting either reduces consistency and undermines long-term progress. Anchor progress in purpose. Improvement without direction can become busy work. Understanding why growth matters motivates sustained effort, even when external recognition is absent. Purpose links action to meaning, making persistence natural and complaints unnecessary. When actions serve a vision, energy is directed rather than diffused. Reinforce humility alongside confidence. Acknowledging limits while striving for mastery prevents stagnation and arrogance. Humility allows absorption of feedback, learning from mistakes, and open-minded exploration of new approaches. Confidence built on competence combined with humility ensures that effort is realistic, sustainable, and adaptable. Finally, commit without conditions. Lifelong self-improvement is an unconditional agreement with oneself. It is not contingent on approval, ease, or immediate success. Decisions to improve are made daily and repeated indefinitely. Opinions may fluctuate, circumstances may challenge, but the agreement with self is permanent. True growth is forged in this commitment. Each day becomes a step forward, not toward pleasing others, but toward cultivating the person capable of achieving, learning, and thriving over a lifetime. Consistent effort compounded across years produces mastery, character, and freedom that no external opinion can undermine, creating a life defined not by reactions, but by the deliberate choice to improve relentlessly and independently.